welcome. If you have questions about starting solids and in particular what kind of a plate your baby should be eating off, this is the live you are going to want to watch. I don't have all the plates that I normally have at my disposal, but I did bring a couple of plates with me because I've had some questions about what are the right plates to use. And so I want to dive right in. If you have a friend or you yourself are starting solids and you have questions, put your questions into the question circle with the question mark in it, because I'll have a little bit of time to do a bit of Q&A at the end, and you can also share the live with a friend who might also be starting solids. Okay, so my best friend is starting solids with her baby, and so she's asked me some questions and I wanted to share some of my answers with you because I don't talk about starting solids that much. So she asked me, like, does the baby need a plate? And my answer actually is that no, they don't at the beginning, mostly because it depends on how you're feeding your baby, but generally most people feed your baby in a high chair, and the high chair already has a tray. And in which case the tray works perfectly, and it's also one less thing you have to clean up. I've actually got a tray with me, so I'm going to disappear for a second, but I'll bring it right back. Hold on. Okay. This is the tray, quite literally, that I used with my babies. And in my experience, I simply just used the tray at the beginning because it was one less thing to have to clean up. If you put a plate on here, whatever kind of a plate it is, whether it's a suction plate or something else, and it goes on here, you are going to have to clean the plate and you're going to have to clean everything on the tray anyway. So in the beginning, honestly, I really personally don't think it makes a lick of difference having the plate there. If you want to have the plate there, by all means, put a plate on there, totally fine. So the question about the suction plates, because that's something that I hear a lot, and I actually had a couple that I used with my baby too. The reason, especially when they're little babies, the reason I personally didn't like them was one thing. Once you put, most of the suction plates have a reasonably high lid on them. So if you've got the plate and then it's raised up, because it's usually more like a bowl. And in that case, depending how tall your baby is, you want like, think about it when you sit at a table, right? The table is not up here when you're eating. It's usually around here so that it's not super high. But for your baby, if the tray is up here and then you add something that's this tall, they can barely see inside it, which is going to be difficult for them. And it could make them quite frustrated. So think about it. Like, if you're sitting at a table, where approximately the height of the table is for you. And if it's not like that for your baby, if it's up here, it's going to be very challenging for them to eat. Like, imagine I'm actually at my desk here. Imagine if I'm sitting here and I'm like trying to feed myself. My arms are up really high. It would be quite uncomfortable. So that's something certainly to think about. And again, if you don't have a problem cleaning a bunch of stuff, go ahead, put a plate on there. Totally fine. It doesn't have to be a suction plate. I've learned from many clients that I've had that the suction plate can be something that your baby wants to explore while they're eating, and they will try to peel it up and they will try to lift it and do all the things. And that is just very distracting and can be quite annoying to you as the parent, because you're like, I've just made you this meal and now you're not eating it and you're busy playing with the plate. So if it's a distraction, just take it off and let them just eat directly on the tray at the beginning. All right, before I talk about, this is like between the 6 and 12 month stage. Let me take a look, because I've seen a few questions that have come in. Let me just take a look at them and we'll see. Okay. All right. And I'm just Q&A. I'm still new at the Q&A on TikTok. What's solids? Like starting solids, like babies starting to eat things other than milk when they're about 6 months old, when they're showing the signs of readiness. Okay. Right. What was it? Oh, okay. So I'm kind of moving now onto the 12-month plus. Now, if you have kiddos that are under 12 months old and you're just very new to this and you want some help with setting up responsive feeding and making it so that hopefully you can avoid picky eating, because a lot of, like, yes, some picky eating, some children are more naturally picky than others. However, when you know the ins and outs of how to approach it, if your child is showing picky tendencies, you can really make a huge difference as to whether or not the problem becomes worse, or you can manage the problem and really work on it right from the beginning. So I do have an online course that is for babies under 12 months old or up to 12 months old called Fuss-Free First Foods. It's very, very comprehensive, and it goes into a lot more detail than what I'm going to go into today. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is maybe you have a baby that is sitting up at the table rather than a tray. So you might have you may not have the tray as an option. So if you don't have the tray as an option and your child is sitting all the way up at the table, that's actually excellent. There's nothing wrong with that at all. In which case, you may definitely want to have a plate. So in a situation like that, again, a suction plate is a fine idea. Again, just be aware of how high it is. Like if they're already sitting at the table, I am just going to use the high chair tray. Like again, pretending that it's a table, look at where a table sits on you versus where it is on your child. If it's all the way up here, you don't want to add something that's really high to something already if they're already like trying to eat like this. It's very hard to eat when you have the table so high up. So that's definitely something to think about. Okay, so if your child's all the way at the table, you have the option, you could get them a placemat, or you could just let them eat directly off the table. Or if you want to give them a plate, I'm talking now when your kid is about 12 months old, by the way, they're very, very, very smart. They can understand a lot more than we give them credit for. So even when they cannot speak back to you, you can help them keep their food on the table by saying like, oh, I see your hand is all the way out there. Now, okay, let's bring our hands in together. And where do we put the food? You have your piece of food in front of you, pick it up and go, it goes in our mouth. Oh, nom, 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 nom. And they will probably copy you, and they do understand. I'm just seeing a couple of comments on YouTube. Dude, I love you. I like your content. Keep it coming. How do you get toddlers to sit for duration? Okay, I do have a video specifically on YouTube about helping children stay at the table. If you type in table, that video will pop up. And I'm glad you're liking the content. Okay, so back to kids, the babies at the table. Whether you are using some sort of a suction, if you have a child that is over 12 months old and they are really exploring the suction plate, what you could do is let them play with the plate before they get to the table. Very much let them explore it before they get to the table. And that's their time to explore and play with the plate. And it's separate from the table. So you tell them that, like, oh, I saw at our last meal you were really interested in the plate. So I'm going to give it to you, and we can sit on the floor with them and say, okay, look, why don't we sit and play with it? You can show me how you peel it off, and then you can talk about if you've got some play food or something. I actually do have a bit of play food here. You can say I'm going to put we put our food in here, and then we put it on the table, put it on the floor, and then we put it on the table, and then we don't play with it, and then we eat it. And so they can have that little bit of exploration time where they can be silly and tip the plate over and do all those things before they get to the table, and you can sort of verbally go through it with them. That's right, you can tip it over because it's not real food. We're just you can flip it over, no problem. But then remember, I don't know, Michael, when we're at the table, we put it down, we put our real food on there, and then I'll show you what we do. Pick up our banana and eat it. And if we're done with our banana, we put it back down. Then maybe we go for our whatever the other thing is and eat that. So you're kind of allowing them to work through their curiosity, but at a time where it doesn't have real food on it, so you don't have to worry so much about them making it a huge mess. Next thing that I have had a lot of questions about is, when do you switch them to a glass or a porcelain plate? The answer is it's really up to you, of course. I switched my kids my first one I actually switched later. She was probably more 3 years old. Then when my second one had come along, we switched her probably at around 18 to 20 months. And we had told them, like, we'd had a conversation with them about, like, these are the plates, these are, like, we just call them adult plates. We don't call them big kid plates or anything like that, because I don't know, I personally have a thing, like, I don't like to say, like, you're a big girl for using this. Like, no, just an adult plate. And we would talk about how it's breakable and fragile, and if you drop it, it will break. And we've had plenty of plates break. Not that many, actually. Not as many as you might think. And we simply would because the kids have had so much practice with their plastic plates, that the plates sit at the table and we don't tolerate plates being, shuffled around or flipped over or anything like that. They have been trained, for lack of a better term, to know that plates have to stay sitting down at the table. The only time you pick up a plate is when you're going to take it to the dishwasher. And so when we switched them to an adult plate, they already knew all the rules, and it just sat there. Like, I can't even think of a time that either of my kids have actually dropped one of these plates or broken them. I think maybe one time when it was being put in the dishwasher. So yeah, I hope that kind of simplifies a bit of this plate, babies and plates idea. Okay, I have a bunch of questions that have come in on TikTok. I've got about 3 more minutes before I've got to go and prep for my next client call. My son doesn't like meat. How do I get him to eat meat? He used to be a great eater. Are you still on the live? I've been finding a charcuterie board helpful. That's a great idea too. I love your teachings. How do I encourage my toddler not to throw her food and drink when she's all done? How do we get a hold of you? My son eats like 15 foods. Okay, please send me a DM on Instagram. Please like in your DM, please say that that you would talk to me on the live, and I will help you out. It sounds like you might be a good fit for my next group coaching program. So Anissa, send me a DM and just let me know that we talked on the live. Okay, so same question about throwing food and drink. Okay, so I do have a playlist on YouTube about food throwing, and I would really encourage that you watch it, because not only does it talk through how you speak to your child about the food throwing, because a lot of parents will say, we don't drop our food. And it's okay if you do say that, like, that's the typical thing that parents say, but there are better ways that you can enforce that in a gentle and respectful way, that will teach them what you want them to do and what you don't want them to do. And it puts you back in the driver's seat in terms of who is in control. And when I say that, I mean you're the one that's setting the boundaries here. And so it'll help you sort of follow through. And then the other 2 videos are for an older child who can help you pick up the food that they've dropped, because that's part of the process. If you drop food, is that you have to pick it up. So for the food dropping, go to my YouTube channel. It's Family Snack Nutritionist, same as my handles here, and go to the food throwing playlist. So for the child that used to eat great, I'm not sure how old he is now, but that's really common. Desiree, is that the same question that you had, or were you asking about the food throwing? Because it's very common. I see this a lot. Like most of the clients that I work with, their kids are around 3 to 5. Like, that's where they typically cluster. I do have kids that are older, like 7, 8, 9, 10, but typically they cluster between 3 and 5. And when I speak to those parents on the phone before we start working together, they pretty much tell me, oh, my child used to eat everything. Like, there are a few that the kids didn't eat everything as an infant or a baby, but for the most part, typically they eat very well until they're about 12 to 18 months old, and then they start to learn autonomy and start to say no, and then they start to realize that they can get what they want if they do certain things. And so the way we respond to that is really important, and that's what I teach in my courses. I have the baby course, Fuss-Free First Foods, which is all the way up to 12 months, and it's very comprehensive for starting solids. And then I've got my bestseller, which is Mealtimes Without Meltdowns, which it'll walk you through all the steps. It's got food throwing in there for older kids. It's got mindset exercises, a phrase guide, because what we say and the way we say it really makes a difference. And all the modules are video so that you can see me like now, so that you can really get an idea of how you need to what your tone and facial expressions can be to really help connect with your child. Because the way I can give you a phrase to say, I don't want you to throw food, or I'm not going to let you throw food. But the way you deliver it makes a difference. I could say, like, this always makes me uncomfortable, but it always gets the point across. I won't let you throw food, versus holding their hands very gently and saying, I'm not going to let you throw the food. Very, very different deliveries of the same words. And so ultimately, when I teach clients, when I teach you guys in my courses, it's all about how to make mealtimes enjoyable for both of you. It's not at your expense. You're not a servant. You're not a jack in the box. You have to be able to enjoy your mealtimes as well. And that comes from setting down firm, respectful boundaries for both of you. And you both have to enjoy mealtimes. So we have to be respectful to both the parent and the child, and responsive to the child's needs. And I can't remember the other thing I was going to say. Be responsive to the child's needs, make it enjoyable for both of you. Oh, and it's a time of connection. We really want you to connect the two of you. So not drive a wedge between you by making it into a battlefield. That's really your child eating a bite of broccoli is not more important than your relationship with your child. So that's where I'm going to leave it for today. I really hope you found that helpful. If you have more questions, if you're interested in coaching, you can send me a DM on Instagram or Facebook. I do have my coaching group just started, and I've got another one. It's all set up and ready you can enroll in it. It starts in July. When you enroll in May, because May is my birthday month and it is also Mental Health Awareness Month, you will lock in the current price before it increases in June. So if you are interested in coaching, now's a really good time to sign up. One spot's already taken. The groups are really small because I give very personalized advice to people in the group. And so if you think that would be a good fit for you, you can just go to the link in my bio, have a little read about it. And like I said, you can lock in the price either on the payment plan or the pay in full. If you pay in full, there's a code where you can save 10%. So you can do that as well. And you'll get access to the Mealtimes Without Meltdowns course right now. So you have somewhere to start right now to start working on. All right, thanks for being here, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.